Hello friends, and stay with me for the next few minutes because there's a single document sitting inside your Centrelink online account right now that most pensioners have never opened. It's not a form, it's not something you have to apply for, it's already there, quietly recording exactly how Services Australia calculated your payment, every asset they've counted, every dollar of income they've assumed you're earning, and which test they used to land on your final rate. And here's the part that should get your attention. That document gets built from information that goes stale. Old car valuations, bank balances from years ago, deeming rates that changed without anyone telling you, a rent figure that hasn't been updated since the last time your landlord put the price up. When any of that is wrong, it doesn't fix itself. It just sits there, quietly shaving dollars off your fortnightly payment for as long as nobody looks. I'm talking about your income and assets detail, the assessment record behind your age pension, your Commonwealth Seniors Health Card, or your part pension. Some pensioners who've gone through this have found errors worth $30, $50, even over $100 a fortnight. That's not pocket change. Over a decade, that's tens of thousands of dollars you were entitled to and never received. Today, I'm walking you through exactly what's in this document, why it goes wrong, and the 5 situations where checking it right now could put real money back in your pocket. Some of this applies whether you're a long-term full pensioner, a part pensioner sitting near the cutoff, a self-funded retiree who assumes none of this applies to you, a renter, or someone still doing a bit of work on the side. Before we get into it, if you're not already subscribed, this is exactly the kind of channel where that matters. Centrelink doesn't ring you up when a threshold moves or a rate changes. Deeming rates shift. Rent assistance caps get indexed. Health card income limits get lifted. Services Australia updates the policy and waits for you to catch up on your own. The people who follow this channel find out when it happens. Everyone else tends to find out months later after a payment's already been reduced. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications, and let's get into what's actually in this document. Part 1. What this document actually is. Every person on an income support payment through Services Australia has an assessment sitting behind the scenes. You can find it by logging into MyGov, going into your Centrelink account, and looking for your income and assets summary under payment details. What you'll see is a breakdown. Your declared bank accounts, your super or account-based pension balances, the value Centrelink has recorded for your car and home contents, your investment property if you have one, and critically, the deemed income Centrelink assumes those financial assets are earning you, whether or not they actually are. Here's the part almost nobody realizes. Centrelink runs your payment through 2 separate calculations, the income test and the assets test, and pays you whichever result gives you the lower amount. They're not going to ring you up and say, "Hey, we used the assets test and it's costing you $80 a fortnight. Would you like us to double-check the income test instead?" That comparison sits in the document. Most people never open it to see which test is actually being applied to them or whether the numbers feeding into it are even current. Part 2. Long-term pensioners. The stale valuation problem. If you've been on the age pension for 5, 10, 15 years or more, this is the group most likely to be sitting on outdated figures. Think about it. When did you last actually update the value of your car with Centrelink, your furniture and household contents? For a lot of long-term pensioners, those numbers were entered once years ago and never touched again. Cars depreciate. Contents depreciate. If Centrelink's system is still carrying an inflated valuation from 2019 or 2020, that's artificially padding your assessed assets, which can push you further into a reduced part pension than you should be. There's a second issue that catches widowers and widowers specifically. After losing a partner, your assessment changes. You move from the couple's rate to the single rate. Your asset thresholds change, and in some cases, your rent assistance or pension supplement entitlement shifts too. If that reassessment wasn't done properly or wasn't triggered at all because Centrelink wasn't told about every account or asset that needed re-registering under your name alone, you could be sitting on the wrong rate without knowing it. The fix here is simple, but it requires you to act. Call the Centrelink Older Australians line on 132300. Ask them to review your current asset valuations and specifically ask them to run both the income test and the assets test side by side so you can see which one they're using and why. Part 3. Part pensioners near the cutoff. If you're on a part age pension, this next bit matters more than almost anything else in this video, because the numbers determining your rate move twice a year, every March and every September, and most part pensioners have no idea where they currently sit relative to the line. As it stands from July 2026, a single person can earn up to $226 a fortnight and still receive the full pension. Above that, your payment tapers down and it cuts out entirely once your income passes roughly $2,627 a fortnight, which works out to around $68,000 a year. For couples combined, the full rate cutoff is $396 a fortnight, and the part pension disappears above roughly $4,016 a fortnight combined, a little over $104,000 a year. Now, here's where it gets sharper. Deeming rates, the rate Centrelink assumes your savings and investments are earning, regardless of what they're actually earning in your bank account, currently sit at 0.125% on financial assets, up to $64,200 for a single person or $106,200 for a couple, and 3.25% on anything above that. If those thresholds shift at the next indexation and your balance happens to sit just over the line, your assessed income can jump even though not a single dollar in your account has changed. That's the trap. People assume their payment only moves if their real income moves. It doesn't work that way. If you're within a few $1,000s of either threshold, that's exactly the sort of position where a document review is worth 10 minutes of your time. Ask Services Australia to show you exactly which test, income or assets, is being used to set your current rate and how close you are to the next threshold change. Part 4. Self-funded retirees who assume none of this applies. If you've told yourself you earn too much or have too much in super to ever qualify for anything from Centrelink, I want you to actually check that assumption, because the goalposts have moved. The Commonwealth Seniors Health Card doesn't test your assets at all, not your home, not your investment property, not your super balance. It only tests your adjusted taxable income, and that income threshold has climbed to roughly $101,105 a year for a single person and around $161,768 combined for a couple. If your taxable income sits under those figures, even if you're living comfortably off super drawdowns or investments, you may be entitled to a card you've never applied for. What does the card actually get you? Cheaper PBS medicines, a higher likelihood of bulk billing, bigger refunds once you hit the Medicare safety net, and depending on your state, discounts on power, water, rates, and car registration. Retirees who assume I earn too much for Centrelink are frequently the exact people leaving this one on the table because they've never separated the age pension's strict asset test from the health card's income-only test. They are not the same rules, and confusing the two costs people real savings on healthcare every single year. Part 5. Renters being underpaid without realizing it. If you're renting privately and receiving a Centrelink payment, Commonwealth Rent Assistance is meant to be added automatically. In practice, plenty of pensioners are receiving less than they should because their rent figure on file is out of date. As it stands, a single renter can receive up to roughly $219 a fortnight in rent assistance, calculated at 75 cents for every dollar of rent paid above a minimum threshold of around $155 a fortnight. For couples combined, the maximum sits at roughly $207 a fortnight. But that maximum only applies if Centrelink actually knows what you're currently paying. Rents have moved sharply over the past couple of years. If your landlord has increased your rent and you haven't formally updated that figure through your MyGov Centrelink account, you are very likely being paid rent assistance based on an old, lower number. This is one of the easiest corrections in this entire video. Update your rent details online and the adjustment can flow through from your next payment. Part 6. Still working part-time? The work bonus. If you're on the age pension and doing paid work, a few shifts, some casual hours, consulting here and there, this is the part most retirees have never been explained to them properly. The work bonus lets you earn income from work without it counting fully against your pension income test. Right now, you accrue a credit of $300 a fortnight, up to a maximum balance of $11,800. That balance offsets your employment income before Centrelink even applies the income test to it. Practically, that means a lot of part-time working pensioners can earn considerably more before their payment is affected than they assume, but only if the work bonus is actually being applied correctly to their file. It's worth confirming your current work bonus balance sits in your document and that any recent employment income has been offset against it rather than counted straight against your pension. Summary. So here's where that leaves you. If you've been on the pension a long time, ask Centrelink to refresh your asset valuations and confirm which test, income or assets, is setting your rate. If you're a part pensioner near a threshold, find out exactly how close you sit to the next line before the March or September update lands. If you're a self-funded retiree who assumed you earned too much for any support, check the Commonwealth Seniors Health Card income test specifically, because it's more generous than most people realize. If you're renting, confirm your current rent figure is actually on file, and if you're still doing paid work, make sure your work bonus is being applied. None of this requires a new application or a complicated process. It requires 10 minutes logged into MyGov or one phone call to 132300 to actually open the document that's been quietly shaping your payment this whole time. If this helped you understand something about your own payment you didn't know before, do me a favor and share it with someone in your life who's on the pension or getting close to it. And if you haven't already, subscribe, because these thresholds move twice a year, and I'll keep breaking down exactly what each change means before it costs anyone money.